iOS 8's keyboard is a big upgrade. It's got quick type and predictive text. On the iPhone 6 Plus, the keyboard gets extra features. iOS 8's keyboard hasn't changed so much that it's unrecognizable. It's just a lot better.
Hey guys, Cam here from today's iPhone.com, and I have two of the best handsets that are available on the market right now. But because this HTC M8 is an Android device, and this is obviously the iPhone, I wanted to compare the two and see which was the fastest in terms of day-to-day and real-life situations. I am not going to be running any benchmarks or any geeky stuff like that, because really, what really matters is how fast it is when you use it day-to-day and what the average consumer is going to experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch similar apps or the same apps on each device. We're going to run a internet speed test, and we're going to run various other things that are comparable between the two that will make a difference in day-to-day life. Now what I've done is I have stopped any apps from running on the iPhone, although they don't really run, and I've also stopped any running apps on the HTC device as well, at least all the ones that I can without breaking the phone. I've cleared the internet history, and so we're just going to go through it and see what it's like, and I'll do my best to press the icons at exactly the same time. So what we're going to do first is we're going to launch a couple of apps on each phone. Now obviously I know that the apps aren't exactly the same on each device, but again, like I said, this is about what it's going to be like for the average day-to-day consumer in real life. So, we'll start off with an app that I use all the time, and it is Hangouts. I use it for SMS messaging on the Android device, and I use it a lot to chat with colleagues and friends on my iPhone. So we're going to open those two up and see how it goes. You see, really there's not much difference. The app actually came up quicker on this one because the animation to load it was quicker, but I think the actual chats loaded a slight tad quicker on the iPhone. Now in terms of processor specs, obviously the HTC has got a quad-core Snapdragon 801 series. I think it's 2.3 GHz. The iPhone is 1.2 GHz, and it is a dual-core, but again, completely different operating system, so it's a different kettle of fish. So we go to another app that everybody likes to use, WhatsApp. Let's see how that one goes. You see again that it did load slightly quicker on here, but it loaded a chat on this one. So what we're going to do next is we're going to load up Spotify and see what those two are like. You'll see Android loaded up first. iPhone app took a little while longer. Okay, next up we got Facebook Messenger, something I use quite a lot. Again, we'll load those two up and see how fast those are on the respective devices. Again, the actual app loaded quicker on the HTC, but the chats and everything loaded up slightly quicker on the iPhone. Now, last but not least, let's go for Instagram. We're just doing the really popular apps here, so Instagram next. Again, slightly quicker on the HTC for that one. So what we're going to do next, I've downloaded the Ookla speed test app on both devices, and we will see what the actual internet download speeds are going to be like on both. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because the HTC has got 802.11 AC capabilities, whereas the iPhone only has N, up to N. So we'll see. I've got an AC router downstairs, so we'll get to see if it's any faster, if it's something you're going to notice when you're downloading files. So we'll begin the test, and we'll see how it goes on both devices. Now you see the test has actually started off much quicker on the HTC. The iPhone still testing the ping, isn't quite there yet. Now you see, because they're both running, obviously the speed has dropped slightly. And what's surprising here is you'll see that this one topped out at 29 megabits per second downloads, and the iPhone is struggled to get anywhere near 15. Now the upload hasn't actually started on this one yet, so let's see how that goes. So we get similar upload speeds on both, maximum of around 8 megabits per second. It's gone up to 9 on the HTC now. So what we'll do now is we're going to restart this test, and we're going to restart it with both phones doing it individually. will do it so that only one of the phones is using the network at the same time. So we'll start off with the HTC and we'll see how it does without the iPhone trying to do it at the same time. In this instance, the HTC got up to almost 28 megabits per second. Uploads again somewhere between 7 and 9 megabits per second. So we're just getting up to about 9 megabits per second again on the HTC. We'll start the iPhone again. So you will notice that actually because of the AC speeds on the HTC M8, you will notice that you do get a much faster connection. You've got almost 28 megabits per second downloads, and the iPhone is around 20. But that's, I mean, obviously you'll get different results depending on how fast your wireless network actually is, but that is the kind of difference you can expect to see because of the wireless capabilities. So let's go into the browsers. We've done the speed test. We're going to Chrome on the Android device and Safari on this one. So let's try today's iPhone.com. So we've got today's iPhone.com right on the top here, and we'll see how fast they load on each device. Now if the speed test is anything to go by, then the Android device should pull the page up much faster. And you'll see it was almost instant. The one on the iPhone is still loading. I mean, the Android one is still loading, almost at the end, but it's pretty much loaded the whole page. You see I'm already scrolling through. iPhone is still loading. Now just in case that was simply my actual today's iPhone blog being a little bit slow, we'll go to the Apple site and see if that's any quicker. You'll see again, it loaded much faster on the HTC. And if we open up a page within the blog, within the site, see that this time the iPhone loaded the full page quicker. The Android phone hasn't loaded all the images quite yet. Seems to be struggling a little bit with that. So we'll go to Facebook.com and we'll see how quickly that loads. So what you'll notice within the two is that obviously Apple's animations when you actually load up the apps are slightly slower than Android's. That's not really anything to do with the power of the devices, but it can make a difference in day-to-day life. I know plenty of people that love iPhone and love iOS, and they just don't like the fact that it takes so long to get the animation to load the app up in the first place. In a lot of cases, the Android device will appear quicker. Actually, in web browsing, and specifically when you're using the wireless network, you should notice that the HTC One is quicker at downloading files, it's quicker at browsing, and that's because it has wireless AC built in as standard. And if you've got a router that's compatible, that will not only boost your signal but also your speed, and that does make a difference in day-to-day life. I've been Cam. If you have any questions, I'm at TIP_Cam on Twitter. I'll see you again soon.
Josh Smith with GottaBeMobile.com. Today I'm taking a look at the iPhone 5 versus an iPhone 6 mock-up. If you're looking at upgrading this year, you're probably going to be buying an iPhone 6, which is going to come with a larger screen and a new design. And if you bought your last iPhone 2 years ago, you probably have the iPhone 5. This is very similar in looks to the iPhone 5S, but we don't have the same Touch ID sensor and things like that. So when you look at the two, immediately you'll see the iPhone 6 is larger, and that's because on the front we have a 4.7-inch display compared to a 4-inch display. And the bezels on the side are slightly thinner, which allow for a nice overall feel and size for the device. If we look at the edges, you'll notice that we have a more curved edge here, and the volume buttons are redesigned. We still have a mute switch, and on the back of the device, we have all aluminum all throughout compared to aluminum and glass. Now, there are some markings in white on this iPhone 6 mock-up, and those may disappear or become much less noticeable as the device comes together in its final form. The power button is no longer up top like it is right here. It is now on the right side. And where that comes in handy is if you're holding the device with one hand, you can easily hit that with your index finger, and you can still use this device pretty well with one hand, even though it is larger than the iPhone 5 here. If you head over to gottobemobile.com, I'll show you some more photos and comparisons to see exactly what's changing between these two devices.
Here are some highlights from our iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus review. Apple finally has big smartphones with the 4.7-inch iPhone 6 and the 5.5-inch iPhone 6 Plus. It has a new design with smooth edges and a curved body made of anodized aluminum and stainless steel. And it comes in three finishes: silver, space grey and gold. The bigger displays don't disappoint whether you're watching movies or playing games. But using these bigger displays might be a bit of a stretch for your thumbs. So Apple has included a new feature called reachability, where you can simply double tap the home button and the interface slides down so you can reach the top parts. Both iPhones sport a new 64-bit processor from Apple called the A8. It's a very capable processor, and we hardly notice any lags with graphics-intensive apps. The main cameras on the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus are quite impressive, considering their unimproved resolution of 8 megapixels. The cameras use a fast focusing method used in DSLRs. In this sample footage, you can see how it instantly keeps everything in focus without any input from the user. And the cameras also have image stabilization to keep your video super smooth. Apple has increased the rate of slow motion footage to 240 frames per second. With such a high frame rate, you can even see the individual spokes on a fast moving bicycle. As usual, Apple's late to the game, but they provided a really solid offering to big phones with the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. You better get one soon while you still can.
Mock-up. If you're looking at upgrading this year, you're probably going to be buying an iPhone 6, which is going to come with a larger screen and a new design. And if you bought your last iPhone 2 years ago, you probably have the iPhone 5. This is very similar in looks to the iPhone 5S, but we don't have the same Touch ID sensor and things like that. So when you look at the two, immediately you'll see the iPhone 6 is larger. And that's because on the front we have a 4.7-inch display compared to a 4-inch display. And the bezels on the side are slightly thinner, which allow for a nice overall feel and size for the device. If we look at the edges, you'll notice that we have a more curved edge here, and the volume buttons are redesigned. We still have a mute switch. And on the back of the device, we have all aluminum all throughout compared to aluminum and glass. Now, there are some markings in white on this iPhone 6 mock-up, and those may disappear or become much less noticeable as the device comes together in its final form. The power button is no longer up top like it is right here. It is now on the right side. And where that comes in handy is if you're holding the device with one hand, you can easily hit that with your index finger, and you can still use this device pretty well with one hand, even though it is larger than the iPhone 5 here. If you head over to gottobemobile.com, I'll show you some more photos and comparisons to see exactly what's changing between these two devices.